You ever look back at a PlayStation 2 game and think, how the Hades did they pull that off? These are the games that made my jaw drop, and 20 years later, I still can't believe they exist. No updates, no patches, just pure unfiltered greatness on a scratched up rental disc with someone else's little greasy fingerprints on it. I'm talking about games that made you sit back in 2005 and think, hold up, is this even legal? So today we're digging into 5 games from the PlayStation 2, original Xbox, and GameCube era that still blow my mind in 2025. Also, excuse the mess, I am in the middle of moving. I remember booting up Republic Commando and thinking, why does this game feel better than 80% of the other shooters on the market? Most shooters back then were struggling to let you aim and breathe at the same time. But Republic Commando dropped you into a tactical squad-based Star Wars FPS, where you could command your squads, scan the battlefield through a scratched up clone visor, and pull off synchronized breaches like it was your day job. You're commanding a full squad where the AI actually listens and the dynamic lighting looks like it belongs on an Xbox 360, thanks to the Unreal Engine 2. And the sound design? Brother, it sounded like George Lucas himself was mic'd up in my living room. It was gritty, cinematic, and immersive, and somehow still ran smoothly on original Xbox hardware. It's one of the only games where you genuinely feel like a clone trooper and not just some random soldier with the Star Wars skin slapped on. It felt tactical, it felt dangerous. It felt like your controller was about to file for combat pay, and I appreciate that in a video game. Turbo meat. It's meat, but faster. Here at Turbo Meat Industries, we believe that your body shouldn't have to wait for its protein. That's why we vacuum seal every slab in a proprietary blend of jet fuel, elk sweat, and black gunpowder. Turbo Meat, it's fast, furious, and fully cooked. Now available at Lowe's. And just when you thought first-person shooters couldn't get any cooler, EA gave us Black. Developed by the Burnout people and ran on Renderware, the same engine that ran San Andreas. So you know it's gonna look good and be fun. The time I ever saw Black, I was just a kid scrolling through YouTube and I stumbled across some gameplay. And man, I thought it was real, dude. I was sitting there blinking like a lizard in a tanning bed. I didn't know games could look like that. And when I finally got to play it, that's when everything kind of just clicked. The weapons didn't just sound heavy, they felt heavy. Every shot had weight to it and every reload had pressure. It wasn't just sound design, it was design. So I have a little side gig in the United States Army as a 91 Fox, which basically just means that I get to occasionally work on and fix weapons. I've handled and fired enough of them to tell you when a game fumbles the feel. And Black nails it pretty spot on. A lot of the environments in Black were also destructible, so that just means instead of sneaking around, you could literally erase a wall and solve your problems by force. Tactics? No. Explosions? Yes. Black was a single-player game that said, hey, what if every gunshot felt like a firework finale? In your skull. It's so loud, one time my mom told me to turn it off and I was playing with headphones on. Next up is FZeroGX. I went into my buddy's game store one day and there it was just sitting on the shelf. I didn't know much about it, didn't grow up with it, there was zero nostalgia for it, but I picked it up and took it home anyways, popped it in the GameCube, and almost cried. Now that sounds a bit dramatic, but you know that feeling you had when you were 4 or 5, when you played a game that blew your little brain open and made you feel like you were inside a whole new world, where none of your problems existed and the only thing that did exist was that moment of excitement and adventure. That was Spyro for me back then, and somehow FZeroGX did that to me now, as a grown man. This game wasn't fast, it was pure speed. I'm talking illegal seizure grade velocity. Dude, they got like 30 racers on the screen at the same time while it's also maintaining 60 frames a second on a GameCube. That's like watching NASCAR on a calculator, or the equivalent of hooking up fiber internet to a frog. And they did all of this in 2003. I was still eating chapstick and thinking Bluetooth was some type of pirate disease. I don't know what kind of sorcery they had going on back then, but it was definitely not FDA approved, I'll tell you that. Sega also had Zero Chill when they developed the difficulty for this game. Take it from me, it is quite the challenge. I never won a race, but I did enjoy flying off the track at blistering speeds. Are you tired of feeling upside down on the inside? Ask your metaphysical advisor about Snorvexa. the only prescription medication designed to balance your etheric wobble. Side effects may include spontaneous Latin, toe regrets, haunting memories of people you've never met, horse dreams, and reverse puberty. Snorvexa. It doesn't fix the problem, but it sure gives it something to think about. And up next is Resident Evil 4. This game wasn't just ahead of the time, but it helped create it. Over-the-shoulder aiming, this game. Dynamic enemy reactions, that game. Kicking dudes in the face mid-combat, all of these games. Now, I've talked about this game on my channel before with my Resident Evil 4 vs Silent Hill 2 video, but I don't really care because this game smacks. I didn't grow up playing Resident Evil 4, and when I finally did in my late 20s, I thought it was just a game I would check off the old backlog and move on. But instead, I lost an entire week of my life. It was the first game in years that made me rush home from work just so I could keep playing it. Like that middle school can't stop talking about it kind of pull. Released back in 2005, RE4 completely reinvented the series, took that slow tank control survival horror formula and blended it with tight, responsive third-person action, and somehow kept the dread intact. It walked this insane tightrope between cinematic and chaotic and nailed both of them. One second you're upgrading your pistol, and the next you're being chased by a man with a burlap sack and a chainsaw through a cow barn like you owe him for the taxidermy work that he did on your pet squirrel koozie. And shout out to the merchant, this dude shows up out of nowhere like your weird uncle at a family cookout and starts flinging out rocket launchers like Black Friday TVs. It's scary when it wants to be, it's funny when it needs to be, and it feels so good to play. Even now, 2 decades later, even though I didn't play it when I was younger, it still somehow hit a core memory. And yeah, the remake is great, but there is nothing like discovering the original one for the first time and realizing that it's still better than most modern games. Before we hit the final pick real quick here, 2 games that I wanted to give an honorable mention. First up is Escape from Butcher Bay. This game came out in 2004 and still somehow looks better than most of the 360 launch titles. I'm not even joking. The lighting, the character models, the atmosphere. It was a legit bona fide stealth game with a few brawling elements and a narration that sounds like a protein shake learned to talk. Number 2 is Gran Turismo 4, which came out in 2004. This is one of the PlayStation 2's most technically impressive games. It's also a game that taught me about gear ratios long before I ever learned to drive. I know I called this game an honorable mention, but screw it, it's getting its own spot. Over 700 cars, real tracks, and a driving model that's so precise that it basically raised an entire generation of gearheads. It had realistic tire physics, detailed suspension tunings, B-spec mode, endurance races. This thing wasn't just a racing game, it was a simulation, and it ran on a console that still used memory cards. GT4 maintained a solid 60 frames per second and pushed some of the cleanest visuals this side of the PlayStation 3. It also expected you to know what a limited slip differential was by the age of 13. And on the PS2 hardware, that's just absurd. Gran Turismo 4 is one of those games that makes your system sounds like it's struggling to keep up. And honestly, same. And number 1, Snake Eater. The first time I saw Metal Gear Solid 3, I wasn't playing it. I was at my little cousin's house, and he was running around collecting the Ape Escape monkeys as Snake. And then a little while later, my uncle got home. Shout out Uncle Scotty! Boots up the main game, and I just sat there completely locked in. I had never seen anything like this before. A game where you had to eat to survive. Where you weren't just sneaking past guards, but you were surviving the wilderness. Camo mattered, injury stuck with you, food spoiled. You weren't Solid Snake, the cool action guy. You were Naked Snake, struggling to complete a mission that felt impossible. Released in 2004, MGS3 pushed the PlayStation 2 to its absolute limits. Huge open-ended jungle maps, dynamic camo system, day-night cycles, animals, weather, stamina. All of this is running on a console that frankly had no business doing all of this. And it looked good. Like good enough that my brain that was still trying to figure out long division actually thought it was a movie. It was cinematic without being passive, emotional without sacrificing gameplay. Every boss fight felt like its own puzzle. Snake Eater wasn't just a game, it was an experience of art. And it did both action and storytelling better than most games even do today. And it did it all in 480i. So these are some of the games that made me stop and say, how's this even possible? Back then. And 20 years later, I still don't have answers. What's one game from that era that still blows your mind? drop it in the comments. Please subscribe or don't, I am not your father. And if you're new here and want to hear me talk about more retro video game stuff, click here where I look at games that had the same name but were different depending on which console you play them on. Hopefully we'll see you over there and see you guys next week.